This woman claimed to have made contact with a 300-year-old ghost using a Ouija board. But according to her, this ghost didn't just want to talk, she wanted to write. In 1913, Pearl Curran said she was channeling the spirit of a 17th century woman named Patience Worth. Patience became a full-blown literary icon, publishing several books even though she'd supposedly been dead for nearly 300 years. So Pearl was born in 1883. She was an only child and her family moved around a lot because of her dad's job. Money was always tight, and because of that, things at home were pretty stressful. Now, despite the circumstances, Pearl's mom had big dreams for her. Any extra money they had went towards singing, piano, and acting lessons. She wanted Pearl to be the best of the best, but when it came to regular school subjects, Pearl just wasn't into it. She wasn't the best student, she got bored easily, had no real interest in books or literature, and eventually all this pressure of trying to be a good student led her to what she described as a full-on collapse, and she dropped out of school at just 13 years old. Now, if you know anything about the late 1800s and early 1900s, you know that spiritualism was huge. People were obsessed with seances, mediums, trying to contact the dead, but even though Pearl grew up during that era, she wasn't into it. She very briefly lived with his uncle in Chicago, who was actually a spiritualist minister. She even played piano at some of his services, but she later said that she found the entire thing pretty repulsive and wanted nothing to do with it. What Pearl actually wanted was to be a singer. That was her dream, but she gave it up in 1907 when she married a widowed businessman named John Curran, and pretty quickly Pearl settled into the role of housewife. They moved into a home in St. Louis with John's daughter and Pearl's mom, and life just kind of kept going. Pearl didn't care about religion or spiritualism. She considered herself undereducated, and she openly admitted that when her husband gave her a poem while they were engaged, she didn't understand it and it went completely over her head. But in 1912, her quiet, uneventful life took a wild turn. That year, Pearl's close friend Emily Grant Hutchings, who was a writer and really into spiritualism, started using a Ouija board. As the story goes, Pearl, Emily, and sometimes Pearl's mom would sit in one room with the board while their husbands played cards in the next. Pearl still didn't take it very seriously. She really didn't want anything to do with it, but that fall, after her dad passed away, Emily convinced her to try using the board to contact him. At first, it really was just a bunch of random words and letters, nothing meaningful, but on July 8th, 1913, during one of their sessions, the board suddenly spelled out, "Many moons ago I lived, again I come, Patience Worth my name." Now, Emily tried asking the spirit a whole bunch of questions, but it became clear that Pearl was actually the one the spirit wanted to speak through. Pearl said that every time they connected with Patience, she would get these vivid visions like little movies playing in her head, and words would just suddenly appear in her mind, fully formed. It felt like Patience was using her as a vessel. According to Pearl, Patience Worth was this 17th century English woman who spoke in super old-timey language using words like thee and thou. And through these vivid mental images that Pearl said Patience sent into her mind, she was able to see what Patience looked like, that she had long wavy red hair, big brown eyes, and looked to be around 30 years old.